I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
Trying to figure out what's next in your life and having someone there to give you that encouragement and make you feel comfortable in your own self, I think made me had an entirely different, even better experience than I ever would have had if I had gone through it alone.
Welcome to episode 3, everybody. Thanks for joining. Now, we've all heard the story of the young couple that meets in college, gets married right afterwards, keeps the love alive for a couple of years, and then crashes and burns. It's common, right? There's even a term for it, starter marriages. And I don't mean to be down about it, but everyone sort of expects the real love affairs to begin in our 30s these days. Well, today's couple, Britta and Blake, they followed the standard plan. College sweethearts, fell in love, marriage at graduation, followed one another to grad school, hit that point in their late 20s when the angst just started to kick in, and they're still together. And they're going strong, which is wonderful. But what fascinates me is how. So today's episode is an exploration of the very useful paradigm that these two live and that has kept them together for over 10 years, even though they're only in their early 30s. So with that, let's go to Britta and Blake. And you guys met in college.
Correct.
Which, what school was that?
This was University of Minnesota.
Oh,
we were both at the Carlson School of Management.
Nerd alert.
And I was a junior, and Britta was a freshman. And we met actually through the Entrepreneurship Club. Nerd alert number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the president at the time, I was vice president of the club. He met Britta, I think, kind of out on some club fair on the plaza, and then brought her in. And I remember kind of meeting her in the club the first time and being like, "Wow, this is one of Tony's new chicks that he found and brought to the club."
He was totally hitting on her.
Oh,
and
definitely.
This was like his machine was the club.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
for
baby,
sure, yeah.
come to the club.
You have a good quick read.
Okay.
And then he graduated at the end of that semester, and throughout that time, we became closer friends. But I was actually dating my girl, Shelly. So we actually got to know each other a lot. I became president of the club. She became director of business events.
So much more nerdiness.
And eventually, Shelly unfortunately broke up with me. It's devastating.
There's nothing unfortunate about
And
that.
I was the rebound.
There you go.
Were you actually?
Yeah, pretty much.
The lifelong rebound. Yeah. So
Tony brought me into this entrepreneurship club. I was sort of clueless at the fact that Tony was after me as a prize at that point. I was more on the overachieving freshman,
right.
Ambitious, excited freshman at college, and got to know this great crew of guys who sort of ran the club, quote unquote, and got to know Blake a lot through that year, and actually really respected and admired this relationship that he had with Shelly, because this was my dear friend Blake who seemed to have it sort of all together and treated this woman with such dignity and respect and love, and then she broke his heart.
Really?
And so,
was it so?
Yeah.
It was really palpable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it was April 1st going into the. It's just such a nerdiness all colored across the story. Blake worked in the computer lab at this was on campus.
it was like the best job.
I would swing by to get some stuff done in the computer lab, but also say hello and connect with my friend Blake.
But wait, but friend, were you feeling?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Feeling nothing.
All right.
Feeling nothing, but would stop by, and I, again, remember specifically, it was April 1st, and Blake comes forward and says, Shelly broke up with me, and he totally had this look of devastation on his face, and I thought it's April Fool's Day. Somehow it's some awkward, weird April Fool's joke, but sure enough, Shelly had broken up with him and broke his heart, and I was then sort of the shoulder to cry on, and again, we had become really close friends at this point. It was sort of towards the end of the year for college. I mean, I guess early April, but we had known each other for a while at that point, and that was then this like bonding mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but even in that moment, it wasn't like, oh, Britta's
now
I'm gonna go
commodity.
after her. It was like, I remember buying in my state of misery. I bought Dave Matthews tickets, and I was like, oh, I'll invite my like best friend or my brother, and neither of them wanted to go or could make it. I can't remember exactly. And I was like, who do I ask? And then my roommate Steve was like, he's like, you should totally ask Britta. I got the nerves up to then go and ask her, because I was like, all right, who's gonna say no to a Dave Matthews concert, right? Like, you want to go with me? And so I asked her. She had a great big yes, was so excited, and then even I remember sent this cute email follow-up that says like, so do you want me to like pay for the tickets or what? And I was like, no.
I wasn't clear on whether or not this was a date or like I have an extra ticket with 8 of my guy friends that are heading to Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
But it turned out,
yes, it was most definitely I want you to go on this as a date with
Oh,
me.
and so wow, you fast forwarded it right to a date. Okay. And then
which was like literally like a month later. All of this was like
so
turbo speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but in college things are amplified.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why good relationships come out of college.
Some stuff that happened in between asking her to Dave Matthews and then actually going to Dave Matthews. I ended up buying Britta in a date auction
true.
for a good cause, Habitat for Humanity.
But that's pretty cute too.
Yeah. So I was the creepy junior in the freshman dorm who was bidding on this girl. And
No. All bets are off in college. There's nothing creepy about it until you're like postdoc.
There you
So
go, yeah.
what point did it become you two were now an item?
Oh man,
As in committed.
do you remember
and that
a
sort of thing?
distinct moment?
It was really fast is the short answer. It was like honestly within a month.
I
Sort
think
of
by Dave
set.
Matthews, it was
Like bizarre. Like I'd honestly, Blake will still tease me about my only real ex, Jake, who was in like in 8th grade love.
I hate Jake.
If Jake ever listens, he ended up
Just
being my
kidding.
senior
He's a
prom
nice guy.
date. Like we were close, but literally I was that girl in high school with my circle of girlfriends who would place bets on, me being the last one to get married. It is so crazy when I really think about it because I was like 19 years old, and
that was, folks. So how soon after then did you get married?
Oh, not until 2005.
which isn't all that long, but yeah like 3.5 years later.
So you basically went from 1 or 2 high school dates to the guy you're going to marry.
It's kind of insane, right?
And no regrets.
0 regrets. Yep.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to come back to the regrets question later and dig into the nuance of that for both of you guys.
Yeah.
But then you're together for 3 years. And
College. Blake graduates. He starts his corporate consulting gig, travels a lot. I'm
but
able
home-based still in Wisconsin.
Still in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Still in Minneapolis,
Okay.
yep. But I'm still able to have my college fun of living with 4 girlfriends and focusing on school and the entrepreneurship club, of course, still.
And we were engaged for a little over a year, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Just barely. Yeah.
So when she was a senior, basically, you asked her?
Oh, yeah. You got to lock it down.
date-
Yeah. Look at her.
I know. You got to lock it down.
To date this even further, that was my birthday gift when I turned 21 was this trip to come out here, actually, to Northern California, to go to Napa. Because at that point, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about wine, but I enjoyed it. So it was this 21st birthday, I'll take you to wine country trip that we weren't going to do. My birthday's in November, and we weren't going to take that trip until the end of May, just because of school and whatnot. Again, I was in college. And that was the trip that we then got engaged on, which was out here, which is kind of fun and bizarre to think about. Flew into San Francisco, drove up to Mendocino, Redwood Forest.
You didn't know it was coming? So,
No.
so you it
Yeah.
was a secret. Yeah, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
plan and everything.
Yeah.
Good man.
It was burning a hole in my pocket. as
I
soon as we got
bet
here.
it
Yeah.
was. Holy cow. Okay, so then you get engaged, and then you get married when right after you graduate, right? Essentially,
Yeah, so August of 05, and you probably graduated in May
May.
of 05. Yeah.
probably May, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
and then so that's been 10 and a half years.
Yes.
Yeah. Just celebrated our 10th anniversary.
Bing,
you know,
bang,
so-
boom.
So you guys are early 30s, and you've been married for a
10
decade.
plus.
Now, for most couples, they break up at year 3, and most
Is
couples
that
that
true?
get
You would know this.
well, I don't think it's actually most, but yeah, as a divorce lawyer, we saw that there was a lot of divorce at year 3. Tended to coincide with.
So not just, it's 3 years of marriage, not just 3 years of relationship.
Seemed to be 3 years of
Okay.
marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's another dip at like year 7 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you guys would be in the second dip if you were going to have one.
Mm-hmm.
But the year 3 dip is interesting to me. So I've talked to several neuroscientists who think that that's when oxytocin kicks in and takes over for serotonin as the primary neurotransmitter. So that's one theory. You're having a little bit less passion, maybe a little bit more long-term familial commitment, but it's not as sexual, right? And that can be scary for people. There's some biologists who've suggested that maybe that's when most couples have had a child. Historically, couples would have a child. The village would be raising it at this point, and then they could go off and procreate with other people.
Yeah.
That was
So
going to
that
be my
could be a
first
reason.
question was, how does that correlate with childbirth?
Right, yeah. That first one is sort of right when that kid's
Yeah.
able to take care of itself.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, who knows what the foundation is? There seems to be a dip at about year 3. Did you guys experience anything?
No.
No, we.
Come on.
No, and I
Well, I
worry
think I
that
know
this
why,
show will
but-
be really vanilla for you because we've had like such a. We've been so lucky, but the child, it's almost a joke on my. Well, not a joke, but the question around is that a correlation to having kids? And I feel like we have had such a privileged, quote unquote, easy life thus far, full of fun and adventures that haven't had a kid yet. I'm sure that'll throw a wrench in, the day to day and the ease and fun of life. But no, I honest to God have not felt like there's been that itch or slump, whether it's 3 years. I've also heard the 7-year itch.
Yeah. Have you noticed
Awesome.
transitions in general?
Well, yeah.
Maybe not dips, but
Yeah.
For
oh,
sure.
absolutely.
what would you say? Like, do you think of them as phases, or how do you think of them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of defining moments, but I feel like there's almost some level of what's going on in your life that dictates if you're going to have these dips or not, right?
Yeah.
So for us, 2 years after we got married and, bought a house and all that stuff.
Which you can do in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem, right out of college.
Here,
not
no
a
houses
chance.
for us.
I went off to business school
Yeah.
with her. And so, I think that's a first point where, some people in school, their spouse didn't come with them or only, got to go visit every so often. And you were right there with me. And
Oh, you guys started at the same time and graduated at the same time? Is that what you mean?
no, I went. She was my sugar mama.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So she worked and, was involved with everything there. But I could easily have seen where that point in time, if you hadn't come with or if you hadn't been as involved, it would have been a kind of divergent point for the relationship because someone is investing so much in something.
Right.
And if you're not part of that, it can be trying to think of the right word, almost just you just feel separated in a sense or
Yeah.
left out. So
yeah. And if you're not with somebody all the time, you're going to start to grow apart. And
yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
So
you'll meet
totally.
somebody
I actually
else.
Totally.
think that's maybe one of those points where I almost feel like we grew closer just because we both were enjoying that experience so much and kind of growing together around that experience
Right.
that I think solidified a lot of stuff. It also I think brought up points of I kind of took an alternative path at school in terms of career choice,
Right.
which means that all your classmates are out doing these information sessions and interviews, and I'm at home, not going to those. And she's like, "What are you doing with your life?"
She's like, I'm supporting
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
had better pay off.
Exactly.
No, not quite. But no, I think of the transitions also as, so to pull it back. It was 2 years then in Evanston, and then we moved out here in San Francisco 6 years ago. And those also create opportunities to just cling on to each other in a beautiful way of you're each other's rock through all of these transitions.
Yeah.
You know, you're building new relationships, you're starting new jobs, you're starting new curriculum, etc. And I just have been so grateful that you have your best friend, partner, lover through all of those transitions in life. So you could look at it as, yeah, that's hard, and you leave friends that have been part of that foundation. But when you've got sort of a solid foundation to build on layers of newness and adventure and learning, it kind of creates this, beautiful mix of life.
Really lovely. I adore the paradigm of the marriage itself is actually the foundation for adventure and for experience. That and it's poses a counterpoint to a disease, I'll call it, that I think a lot of guys suffer from. That I definitely did, which is it's something along the lines of I've got to date the most beautiful models, and I have to have a list of beautiful models that I've dated in order to prove my worth as a man, or something like that. I have to tell my friends that I had the most amazing porn star sex with that girl and that girl. You know,
3 of them at the same time.
Oh yeah, you've got to up the ante. You know, to be the king. And
it's really true.
And I'm curious if you ever suffered from that.
No, I got her. She's right here.
I knew you were going to say it. I set you up for that.
One of me.
I mean, that is one answer, that she's actually your ideal, your physical beauty ideal, and so why keep looking? But I believe if you suffer from that, it doesn't matter if you found your ideal. You're going to keep looking over her shoulder. Have you ever had any of that?
Yeah. Good, valid question.
Oh yeah, I don't think she's nodding her head of I suffered from that. I think she's saying valid question. No, actually, I don't feel like I've had that. I guess in a sense, like when you were talking about like marriage as a foundation for adventure, and like what was going on in my mind at that first transition point kind of in our life was who
can we add as a threesome to that foundation?
No.
Hey,
just
stable
kidding.
legs.
Yeah.
3 legs makes them more stable.
Was actually just like the confidence that she instills in me to kind of go through all of that, and that almost in and of itself is kind of, I think, a draw or an attraction, you know, a stimulant of just like, you know, she's giving me so much kind of encouragement and support and consistency that it's like I feel like I can go do anything I want to do, which is maybe where you feel, or I could see where that same idea is why people are driving for the, you know, the next girl or crazy sex or whatever was on your list.
Exactly. Now, a lot of times, so you two both have the same paradigm, that your relationship is a foundation for having a great life, as opposed to the paradigm that a lot of people have is like the relationship is going to end my life.
And, you know, as I really think back, and if I imagine going through that transition without Britta, like it just wouldn't have
which transition?
Going to school and
right.
Yeah, and like going to this new place, right, where you're meeting all these new people. You know, they're all very smart, successful, beautiful. And you're, you know, trying to, you know, figure out what's next in your life at that point, and having someone there to like give you that encouragement and, you know, make you feel comfortable in your own self and who you are, like, just I think made me had an entirely different, even better experience than I ever would have had if I had gone through it alone.
Yeah. Again, there's that paradigm.
Yeah. But to your point on the the question that I think is a good one in terms of like which route do you take? One that's with your consistent foundational partner, or like do you live life to the quote unquote fullest because again you've like experienced all these relationships and different things, and it's an interesting thing to think about the fact that we got married so young, sort of before encountering any of that, to sort of just decide in a wonderful way that's full of excitement and passion and happiness, but it's like we've decided each other, and that was early on before. I just think I look at my single friends today, and you read like Aziz Ansari's Modern Romance
Right.
around just like what dating looks like today, to make it so easy to just flip through and have a date in 15 minutes based on your location, and that
Junk
wasn't
food dating.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that literally was not at all the era that we were in 10 and a half, over 10 years ago when we started dating. And so in some ways I'm just so grateful that was the era that we started in.
Have you ever had a challenge of being met by expectations or reality versus your expectations?
I don't think in relation to our relationship had disappointments, but not based on us. And again, I think that's been sort of the saving grace, or sort of the safe space in some of those like life disappointments.
Right.
But yeah.
If it's not clear yet, our relationship is perfect.
No, and it's not to say that in the least, but yeah, I feel like we've had a pretty easy run.
What would happen if one of you cheated on the other?
It'd be really hard. I think I'd just be really heartbroken. Just thinking that, it feels like it's, not that perfection is that's a terrible term, but feeling like it's really solid and really great. And then, I would just I'd be crushed. And of course, trust would be hard. I think I don't think long-term trust would be. I feel like when you have it's now 14-ish years of a relationship, like that could be regained, but it'd be heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
I think I would. So I'm a big believer of when you commit to marriage, this is like the long-term, lifelong decision that you're making, and so there is a level of like forgiveness and moving forward in that.
We are
While
human.
it would be super tough, don't get me wrong, and maybe it's easy for me to sit here and say that, without fortunately having experienced that, but I also feel like I think the biggest thing I would wonder is like, how am I not fulfilling you? Because usually cheating involves like around some like physical attraction or aspect, and I'd be like,
or mental,
like
emotional.
Yeah, I mean,
especially on the.
It sounds like you're saying it's a symptom, not a cause.
Yeah, I'd be like, listen, like I want to have sex all the time. Like what like what need am I not meeting? So, but yeah, maybe it's different for men and women. So,
yeah. What's implicit in what you're saying is that you have at this stage an immense amount of trust for each other, and because of that, a lot of flexibility, and that you could roll with that punch. I love asking questions, that question specifically of couples, because it seems like the longer people have been together, the more willing they are to imagine getting back together after an infidelity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't get any ideas, Blake.
But
of course, it's
not a carte blanche, but look, I love you, and I know, and as long as you are willing to acknowledge that you screwed it up, and we can move forward. Yeah,
and there's a big power in forgiveness, and again, don't get any ideas, Blake.
No,
but
no.
like we are human, and sometimes I feel like the biggest bonding in life is when you're vulnerable, and B, willing to have faith in people to know that they are, I don't know, not necessarily like better than that, but that there's more to an action. So
I think like hopefully you would, everyone always says this, right? Like marriage is all about communication, but in a sense it is. Like hopefully if you were experiencing some issue that was driving you towards that
right,
you would be having conversations early such that you can address it. And
well, do you guys have a technique or a practice around doing that? Because everybody says this.
I mean,
you guys.
I'm trying to think of any like specific technique.
I know I'm chuckling too of like, at
breathe
night
deeply through your diaphragm.
We go through our 3 questions of the day to make sure we're on the same page. And no, but I do. I mean, the communication thing is. I think we've talked about it a lot. Frankly, my parents are divorced and will tell you that communication was one of their biggest driving forces apart, that they really, and again, it's amazing to think of how young we were and how much we've evolved and changed over the last 10 years even, but that was one of their biggest factors in terms of them getting a divorce. Was they changed and evolved in different ways, but they did that in sort of their own direction, and the communication piece wasn't there to keep it together.
Be more specific, because people always say this communication is really important, and I know a couple who broke up because they weren't communicating, but it's it's kind of vague. Really, what does it actually mean?
So for them, and forgive me, Mom and Dad, listen to this, but for them, I think it was a pretty religious piece around my mom being pretty stout Christian woman, and my dad whose faiths just sort of evolved over the years, and so that was, I think, a lot where conflict happened. But as he was starting to question things over the years, just wasn't super communicative about it. And so later on, I think it became a bigger issue.
Now, why do you think he didn't communicate?
It's a great question. I don't know, what a fear, probably in his own insecurities of, your brain does weird wandering things, right? You might question things, but not actually get to a point where you think, okay, this is fact in terms of how I feel about the situation. It might just, it's wandering thoughts. So I don't know. I think, and not wanting to ruffle her feathers, you might want to, like, quote unquote, play it safe for a year or two and try to grapple with it on your own time before you, stress her out about it, or who knows.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I think it's almost like there's a point in the communication where it's not so much about, hey, we're diverging. It's how are we going to talk about this and evolve with that divergence versus just letting it diverge, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of talk a lot about, like, I feel like, we've all gone through an evolution, right, over the past 13, 14 years that we've been together in a relationship. When you think back to, like, who you were when we started dating and who we are today. And, if you're kind of not growing and evolving together, then, that's like an issue, right? And so it's not just communicating like, hey, I'm not into religion anymore. It's, okay, this is like what I'm feeling, and how can we grow our relationship in a way, even though that this difference is still there or is happening. So
you have to have a lot of courage. Courage, first of all, and then trust that the relationship is a safe space to be able to articulate that you're going through a significant change.
I think a big, and I don't know how else to describe it, but just saying, like, such a deep love that you're willing to, like, be there for this person regardless of what that change is, right?
Is there anything that you would be significantly scared to share with Britta if it were happening, or you were noticing by yourself?
No, I mean, I think the religious thing has happened for us, as well, a divergence from kind of traditional religion.
The two that scare men the most are, I think I'm gay, or I think I'm impotent.
Yeah.
Oh. Those are the two things that men are petrified to talk about that I hear when I talk to men about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No.
If you started wondering if you were gay, I'm not going to get divorced from you, honey, but I think I might be attracted to men. Would you share that with her?
Yeah, I think I love her so much that I feel like it'd be a out of respect thing, like, right?
Wow.
Because how can you have, like, and that maybe be like where a case where I would maybe support a divorce, because, like, if you're not able to kind of fundamentally exist in a relationship like that around that, then
you both might be better off.
Yeah, and again, that, like, I would never want to lead her along for a long time, knowing that we're, I'm essentially being unfaithful that whole time, not in the sense of, like, physically unfaithful, but, like, I'm not in love with you in the same way that you think that I'm in love with you.
Mm-hmm. That takes faithfulness to a whole nother bar. I mean, that is significantly higher than most people would put it. Would you go to a strip club?
Yes, I have gone to a strip club.
And did you get a lap dance?
Yes, I have gotten a lap dance before.
And did you consider it cheating on Britta?
No, I think we even talked about it beforehand.
Would you have? So you wouldn't have considered it cheating, Britta?
No.
I mean, it's not
so-
something that I'm like going out like every weekend or, you know, it's usually around like a bachelor party or something
that's
like
how
that
it
where
usually
you're.
comes up.
I was trying to think which one.
Would
which
you?
one was
So,
this?
but so another hypothetical for you. If this is an easy one, if Britta said, you know what, I'm not comfortable with it, you would just not go.
I mean, not get a lap dance or not
Either one.
If
a
I
strip
challenged
club.
you on it.
I think
Yeah.
I think the tricky one around like, hey, you're there at a bachelor party, like if it was like you really don't want me to go into a strip club, I wouldn't go into a strip club. But I feel like we have the kind of trust where, it's even if you said like no lap
That would
dances,
feel
like
so
that'd
weird
be fine,
and yucky
right? Like
for me to say no to ask you to not do
to me,
anything.
it's not about like
Right.
where it's like I'm not in a relationship with this stripper. I'm like there and like it's a bachelor party experience, like.
Well, the level that you took.
By the way, Mom, I'm so sorry.
But the level that you took your responsibility to Britta, when I posed that hypothetical right before I did, was really interesting to me. You were basically saying, not only do I love Britta, but I want to love Britta in the way Britta thinks that I love her. Because if there's a disconnect there, even in her perception of what I'm doing, you're still responsible for that.
Yeah.
And you're both nodding like, of course
Mm-hmm.
I'm responsible for his experience. But most people would say, no, I'm responsible for my experience.
Mm-hmm.
She's responsible for her experience. Do you ever find yourself thinking that way? I don't know. That's your thing. That's not my thing.
I think more just for like minor stuff, right? Like day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, Britta, needs to go do her workout because that's her thing,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, this is a little bit of a tangent maybe, but something that I think is really important when it comes to really solid relationships is we're talking about trust. That's like a huge component in this being a really great and wonderful space and relationship. But then beyond that is the idea that you have to be really set and firm on the ground with yourself first, I think. The idea that you have to be in a happy, confident place kind of on your own before even being able to reach out to this spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend. I think you have to take care of yourself in a really positive way before you're going to be really positive to the other in the relationship. And I think
And throughout the relationship.
Right, totally. So when those pieces are in place, it feels like, yeah, there's a level of trust. Like, you do your thing. I respect that you do your thing because that's important to you, and I'm not going to get in the way of you doing your thing because it fulfills you. And then later on, I benefit from that, frankly, because it's a better foundation to the individual. So.
And for the two of you.
Right.
You guys have, and this is why I'm really digging down the tunnel with the two of you. You guys have a level of trust that's really unusual for married couples in general, but also for your age.
I almost wonder too, going back to the notion that we were really like each other's first in so many ways, that having not have been hurt many times, like my trust. Actually, I think this is probably a big part of it now that I think of it, is my trust hasn't been broken with many people in life. I've had a close family. I've had great friends. I've now had Blake, who's been amazing. And my trust, I've never had this like, wow, real vicious, I can't trust you encounters with many people. And off the top of my head, I don't know that I can think of anyone who I'm like, have that real like visceral, whoa, I can't trust you feeling. And I would have to venture to guess that Blake could probably say a similar thing. So when you come in like very innocent and naive as we have into our life, that it is probably a lot easier to build trust onto that like very white and shiny innocent beings that we
but you could also probably argue that that's grounds for
major disappointment.
Yeah
potentially. There's multiple ways to look at it, but interesting ways to think about it.
So if you're just joining us, you're listening to The Together Show, the podcast about what's really going on in relationships. My guests today are Britta and Blake Durchie, and we were just discussing trust. And I've got a new question for you guys. What do you fight about?
Stupid stuff. Like small, stupid stuff. Like,
What do you get really angry about?
I'd say, I mean, what would you say the biggest thing recently was probably around, I've been on like a 2-year, about a little under 2-year stint kind of trying to be an entrepreneur. And things didn't progress as far kind of financially or successfully with the business. And
Remember the comments about me being the sugar mama before?
Yeah.
It's still the
Played
case.
that role a lot
It's still the
in our 10 years.
That's
No.
true, which I'm very grateful for. But I felt there were times when she was kind of so focused on the financial piece that it felt like we weren't in this together. And at the same time, I'm like the finance guy in the household, or like that's my responsibility. And so I was like, well, listen, I can show you everything around finances that we're doing fine regardless, right? And it was almost just like,
Which I knew to be the case.
you knew to be true,
It's
but
more
like
the forward outlook that I wonder about.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I think what it brought up was like a level of like what level of kind of comfort we have around ambiguity for forward-looking income and things like that. And so it to me, it was like there was a few things, like small comments and things like that just dug at me, where it was like, oh, that doesn't feel like we're on the same page around this,
Yeah.
both from like a financial standpoint and also of like what I've been doing, and is that work valuable and worthwhile.
And then you would get that when you would feel dug at,
Yeah,
you
it's
would
like,
get that feeling, that kind of like itchy, angry feeling bubbling up.
I'd be like, we're having this conversation again. Like, what more can I do to make this clear to you?
Yeah.
And,
And why does it matter? Why does it matter that you're not on the same page, or that you were digging? Like, what was the fear underlying that?
oh, I think, well, it's like we're a team, right? So, like, it didn't feel like the team was agreeing on kind of which way we need to go. And at the same time, I felt like, I think it was just like, I felt like this was my thing at the moment and I'm giving it a shot. And it was like, I need you to be like fully supportive. And like, that was the area where I felt like not supported. It's like,
Which, for the record, most of the time was probably
again,
support,
right?
right? These were moments.
He's
of,
asking a very specific question.
Yeah, no.
And I'm
And
trying
I would
to give
agree
an
to it
example,
for
so,
sure.
Yeah.
That was definitely points of tension.
Well, so when I'm specifically backing out, what I'm
Yeah.
really curious about is the dynamic of a fight.
Yeah.
The fights manifest, and you go back and forth with each other, and I know with Aubrey, when we start fighting, I lose track really quickly of what exactly I'm fighting about. And I'm a lawyer, so I can have an argument lined up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that what I'm really fighting about is ever being said out loud. And I am very familiar with the insecurity that revolves around being an entrepreneur and losing your shirt, because it just happened to me. It's happened to me more times than I can care to tell you. And so I want to know, like, aside from what the back and forth was,
Yeah, exactly.
what
Like,
was
what's
the underlying
root
fear?
of-
Like, what
Yeah.
was it that made you get triggered?
Yeah, let me think about that for a second. To me, maybe it was just like, maybe it was a little bit of like, do you believe in me, right? Like, am I not this like successful person that you've known, right? And that I'm supposed to be here, helping, provide for the family and contribute to the family, and and maybe it was more of a fear on my own of like, okay, what she's pointing out is that in reality, like, I have failed, and I'm like not letting myself admit it, and that's a horrible thing to be like, yeah, you failed at this, right? So,
Yeah. So it was two things, or maybe more at once. It
is
was
this a therapy session?
yeah, if you take it that way. Just don't have to pay me. So it was the fear that there was a threat to the relationship. There was a threat to the sanctity between the two of you.
Yeah, and I think maybe a fear around like, listen, this is very important to me, and I feel like you're not respecting the importance of it to me because you keep.
But so what?
Yeah.
What if she didn't respect the importance of it? That's what I always wonder. Like, why do I care about this?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that question, but it is important, maybe because you want them to care about it, and it's important to you, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, why do I care? But of course I care because she's my wife, and like I love her, and I want her to not just acknowledge that that's what I'm facing or that that's my reality right now, but like be gung ho about it and like
Which I was.
Which you were, but of course, yeah.
Again,
But like,
not to paint the wrong. I think there are moments of frustration when you're like.
Now let me come to this side. So what I'm loving now.
I've been holding back.
I mean, look, from the outside, it's totally obvious that you're supportive. But what you're really concerned that he knows that you are supportive.
Yeah. Yeah, because truly it is like, I honestly, knowing, I mean, again, to go back to our nerdy story of meeting in the entrepreneurship club, have known that Blake would want to try to scratch this itch at some point.
Yeah.
And so absolutely give it a go. I think so it wasn't every day that it was like a bickering thing over dinner whatsoever. It's like, I don't know maybe every couple of weeks of, I think also.
Less than that even, but.
Yeah, probably less than that even. And I think sometimes it was simple things like, I would ask, sometimes there'd be a misunderstanding of me even coming home to be like, Blake, how was your day? And him feeling like defensive almost. Because
I do that with Aubrey.
Because he's still in, and I think this is kind of awesome, but like he's still in his sweatpants. He hasn't left the house. He's done a bunch of stuff. He does great nonprofit board work and he manages our building. And I know he's been busy, but I think there was a few times when I would be like, Blake, honestly, like take a deep breath. I just want to know how your day was. And so there's that like kind of miss too of, because I think he feels in other ways, or from direct conversations that we've had, of a little bit of this pressure, because it is, I'll be honest, I was raised in a more frugal family than Blake was, a little more. I've been excited for sure about the possibilities of entrepreneurial adventures, but more risk averse than Blake. Yes. And so after a couple, we live in San Francisco. It's tough if we do want to have kids someday in the future, and we don't want to move from the Bay Area. My concern was never at all where we sat like today. It's really more thinking about, well, what's the long term from this? I don't want to move out of the city anytime soon. So
what I love about this, two things. One is that you guys are both so focused on like the sanctity of the relationship. Neither one of you wants to think that the other is doing anything that would jeopardize the relationship as its own entity, and that's just lovely. And then you each have your own concerns and fears around this this activity called entrepreneurship, which is a roller coaster at
scary,
best.
Exciting, a whole mix, a whole bag of tricks.
And so, and you hear from entrepreneur relationships a lot of times, if one person is not, it doesn't sound like you guys are related, and where one person is not an entrepreneur, the other person, if they ever say anything about, well, maybe you could take a break from entrepreneurship for a while, the entrepreneur can feel exceedingly threatened, because it's this sense of, well, my personal identity is that I'm a successful entrepreneur, and you're threatening that. And if you don't love that about me, what do you love?
Yeah.
So what does our relationship mean if you don't love this part of me?
Yeah,
and then it threatens the whole image that you've made up of the relationship. But you two look like you've come to a different solution. What was the resolution of all that?
I got a job.
Did you?
Yeah, I start on Monday.
That's serious. Good timing question.
So it did actually. I remember like the beginning of November that Blake. I don't remember how that timing sort of came about, but it was like, all right, I'll consider looking at startup sort of options, because during this whole time too, it's like we live in the Bay Area. There's all kinds of amazing startups you could potentially learn a ton from. Give that a couple years. Who knows how that'll go, and then consider that just another round of education. Continue to dabble with your entrepreneurial ideas and build that out, and you can always pursue that later. So then sure enough, literally things happen really quickly with this job opportunity that Blake's excited about.
Yeah.
Not just Britta being excited about it, but I think you would say that you're genuinely excited about it too, right?
Yes.
But Blake, did you have to get over some level of failure? I really screwed this up. I can't believe it. How does she still love me? Kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't think it was so much does she still love me at all. It was more for me, maybe more just like the personal, like, oh, like I thought I could do this, you know?
Yeah.
And it hasn't
And you
affected
still
me.
are in some ways.
Yeah.
Like following a passion project that's
Yeah.
a total weekend business,
Yeah.
which is great.
That's the hunting one.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, so I think it's just coming to terms with like, all right, like I failed, not at that one, but at a different one, a different business idea, and so, all right, move on. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't personally coin it as failure feels like a strong word for that adventure and attempt. You learned a lot in the pursuit of it, and again, with layering on another experience that could add to that, you're just better equipped.
Well,
next
every
time around, if you choose to go that route, who
every
knows?
entrepreneur mentor says it's 10-1.
Yeah.
You fail 10 times. So I guess there you go. But okay, so you didn't have a whole lot emotionally to let go with regards to her. You weren't concerned that she felt badly about you. You just had to get over your own feelings of loss.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that, and I think, like you said, it was like, why do I care that she cares about what I'm doing? I think, right? Like, you were saying that same thing. Like, why do we care about that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because we, we're in love. Like, I want her to care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And think highly of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, that particular mix is such a potent one. And particularly when you reverse the traditional, by traditional I mean last 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
of financial roles.
Mm-hmm.
And because parties tend to, you start thinking you have to be a particular way. I have to be the breadwinner, or I have to be the one at home having children, would be the way that people for the last 50 years have thought about it. But you two have let that go in a really lovely. How did you do that?
I'm so happy to be the stay-at-home dad with no kids. It's awesome.
And I will admit that I will fully miss having a house husband. It has been phenomenal. Blake's laundry and grocery gathering skills are phenomenal. So
and lots of other things.
right.
Yeah, how did you have so much freedom letting go of those? Do they just not matter anymore, and I'm out of touch, or did you have to actively work on it?
Oh no, I think it's just, again, like I have no confidence issues around who I am because I think I've got her, right. Like it's like I don't worry about that.
Yeah. Well, so what do you guys do right?
Sleep naked every night.
Oh.
Yeah, skin to skin. Doesn't have to be sex. I think there's something to that.
Yeah, until she's the heater though, so then she knocks me away and says,
Do you cuddle all night?
yeah.
Probably not all.
No, eventually
Toss and turn.
Yeah.
Fall asleep and wake up, though, is really nice. Same team. Love that mantra.
Yeah.
I think I might have mentioned that when we were chatting about relationships when I first met you.
Yeah,
was
break it
this,
down
like,
real quick. It is like it is nice.
It's a nice thing. It's so simple, but when we were going through this premarital counseling that was required from the church that we were married at, the pastor was a big proponent of the simple notion of same team. So you go through these like petty arguments or discussions that might feel challenging, and when you just look through the lens of we're on the same team, like let's talk this through and we're on the same team, it's kind of amazing what different light that can put on.
Yeah, and actually just to tie it back to the entrepreneurial example, I feel like that's really kind of where a lot of those quote unquote fights like ended around, was like, oh, like we are on the same team, like you want the best for me, I want us to be financially secure, like we've got this all figured out, like let's let's find a way forward together.
Right.
Yeah. I think what else? We try not to go to bed mad at each other ever, which doesn't always work.
That's
but
an old trope. Is
It's
that really a thing?
yeah, I mean, you don't want
Always
I think it
wondered.
helps just to be a forcing mechanism that you talk through stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it makes any morning feel a little bit better. But you're right; it's totally old school. But again, for a prompt, I think it's a good one. It's a simple one that everyone's here.
It's just a prompt to get you to talk.
Yeah,
and you
I
might
think
miss
so.
it one night, but
Yeah,
but
totally,
basically you're gonna.
totally.
Yeah, but you
It's a
never
good
feel
prompt.
good if you're going to bed mad or whatever.
Oh, yeah, it's a horrible
and
feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. It's like the epitome of waking up on the wrong side of bed. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird too, right? To be like pissed off at someone, but they're like
Right
there, like you
It
know.
Naked
is
next to
surreal.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Adventures. We love. We have a thing for an international big trip once a year. It's like there are certain things that are like tactical then, right? Because we love exploring new places. It then totally prompts quality time. You're doing something new together. We love. I think this is actually building on that tactical thing, but just finding things that you both enjoy doing a lot, like fun being stuff that for us it's biking, hiking, camping, and finding a mate who also enjoys those similar things where you're both in like utopia modes, and quality time is super helpful. And
Which is her top love language.
Is quality time?
Yeah.
Quality time.
Yeah.
What's
No.
yours?
Probably physical touch
classic.
in a personal sense, and words of affirmation in a professional sense.
You're my brother. That's exactly. I am right there with you.
Which is maybe going back to the entrepreneur thing. Is like, if I'm not getting the right
Yeah.
reinforcement or whatever.
That is a good one. Sorry to I jumped
Yeah,
in.
no.
I mean, but as another like tactical, that book even is very rooted in Christianity. I think the notion of that 5 love language thing is actually pretty helpful.
Yeah, and that's I think
Do you
perfect.
know it? Have you read
Oh
it?
yeah. The funny thing about that book is every single guest I've had on the show has brought it up
References it?
without prompting.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's how well known it
Yeah.
is.
Uh-huh.
It
Doesn't
is great because
surprise me.
it shifts your mindset to not be about like, what do I, I'm not going to transpose what is important to me onto her. I need to find what's important to her and actually help, cultivate that and make that happen for her. Right.
Yeah, and we all grew up in
So now I
really
see, like,
different
if I'm-
environments that
Yeah, if
display
I'm-
love and affection in really different ways.
If I'm
so.
watching TV, I can understand how she can interpret that as me making a conscious choice to not be spending quality time with her.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought of that.
Right.
Been like, hey, I'm just relaxing, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, I do love the focus it places on your partner. How do I communicate? I know I love her, but how
Yeah.
do I communicate it to her such that she can hear it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, it's quality time.
Mhm.
What's your secondary, Britta?
Not gifts, that's for sure.
Yeah,
gifts.
maybe acts of service is kind of
Oh,
cool
yeah,
because
I
it
agree
just,
with that, yeah.
there's something very thoughtful about that, and
Like doing the
giving.
dishes, acts of service.
yeah, totally, you nailed it.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Which
All
is
right,
that?
don't list any more,
Yeah.
Eric. Yeah.
No, it's funny that I love to cook in this household, and Blake is an amazing cleaner upper. So
What's your guys'
good.
most constant petty annoyance with one another?
right now, the second bedroom.
Oh, gosh.
So
It's
we
a
have
gear room.
We are really fortunate to have a 2-bedroom place, which is it's essentially like a big gear library which is my stuff too. Skis to
Bikes,
bike. We have
the hunting
eight
equipment.
bikes now between the two of us. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God!
No, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Camping gear, hiking stuff, hunting stuff, hockey stuff, golf clubs. But now during hunting season and hockey season, so what Blake's about to run off to tonight, stuff comes home and it's just usually we have a good like rack system, so it actually is stored and organized pretty well. But during this time of year, it's like literally a hurricane zone in a room that the door has to close because it like literally stresses me out and gives me kinks in my shoulders. I think.
I know the feeling.
And your what's mine for you?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe when you like,
Nagging you about the second
yeah,
bedroom?
probably that. Yeah, like I got it. I don't know. Like I feel like sometimes you've just kind of left dishes, assuming that I would clean them up since I've been at home.
Your job has been
Okay,
household
see?
husband.
There goes
and
the
I cover
House
dinner.
husband. Okay,
I cover
now so I'm your
dinner,
slave. I see.
Yes.
I promise I'll get better with that.
No,
as you work.
it's more of even, I think, just, hey, I left these in there. Would you mind taking care of
Acknowledging
them? I'd be happy to do that for you, right? Versus just assuming, I think, is the.
All right, that's good feedback.
But that's like the tiniest little nag. Like, we're telling you things just because you're asking questions.
Yeah.
But like in reality, like, life is so good. Like, there's no.
Well, it's so clear. And I wish we weren't running out of time because I have so many more questions about the dynamic of getting married at the age that you two did.
Oh my
But
God. Maybe over a duck dinner.
yeah, over duck dinner. Thanks, right? We talked about that. But it's been such a pleasure talking to the two of you. Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate you
Thanks for
taking the
having
time
us.
to come tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And
Pleasure.
yeah, so we'll look forward to maybe you'll come back for a telephone post-interview interview.
Ooh.
Sure.
All right, guys.
Or the 20-year.
The 20 year.
Get ways out.
Anyway, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
All
Eric.
right. Bye, guys. All right, so guys, thanks for coming in on this quick Skype session. We forgot to do the this or that game that I like to end every show with. A rousing game of this or that. You know how this or that works?
No.
Okay, it's really simple. I'm going to say a this or a that, and you guys are going to choose which one you prefer.
Together or
Separately, but we'll hear from each of you.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so we'll start really, really easy. Coffee or tea, Britta?
Coffee.
And Blake?
Tea.
All right, good. I like when there's a difference.
I don't drink any coffee.
There's a major difference there. Major.
Blake, do you make her coffee in bed?
No, she lies a very particular way, and I.
There's just no way.
You. There was a day you tried.
I think I tried.
College.
But,
Yep.
Okay, pirates or ninjas?
Who first?
Can we say at the count of three?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Ninjas.
Past parties. That's an easy one. And
We even have a picture of us dressed as ninjas.
yep,
Oh, you should
Yep,
send me that.
that could be the follow up. There you go. Okay.
Okay, would you rather be able to fly or read minds?
Oh wow, that's a cool one. I can go first. I think fly. Read minds would get scary. Flying would be convenient and fun.
Flying was my first instinct, but when I really think about it, I think read minds would be
Super powerful.
super powerful.
Yeah.
Like Xavier.
And you could hopefully
Yeah.
use it for good.
Yeah. All right. Well, power combo.
Yeah, she flies, I listen.
All right. Tall or skinny?
For like a mate?
I'm just saying, tall or skinny.
Tall.
So you'd rather have me be tall and fat?
No, I don't know for a mate. I'm
Skinny
just
and
saying
short?
skinny sounds unhealthy and scavenging.
I think I'd choose skinny.
Okay. Second to last question. Enlightenment or $1 billion?
I'm questioning impact on that. And not necessarily for me, but
I think I'm going to say
I kind of say
billion.
$1 billion.
Even though that's probably like not like us, but
Yeah, exactly. But for quick allocation of needs that you see fit.
then we could just study enlightenment.
And understand it really well.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one, though. Okay.
All right, last question. If you had to either live forever, like infinity, or die in the next 5 minutes, which would it be?
Oh gosh, live for infinity.
Oh, yeah, I think I would have to say that too.
Life's too good.
Let's see. Oh, be scared. Yeah, but it's been good. So do you chalk it as that? But oof. No, infinity
and
too.
beyond.
Infinity.
Infinity's a long time, my friends.
I know you could see some bad
Highlander though.
stuff then.
That's cool.
All right, if I could grant your wish, I would. The $1 billion and infinity.
Oh my god.
And mind reading and flying.
There you go.
And coffee and tea.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for playing the game.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's it?
Yeah.
Man, I thought you were going to ask, like,
Thanks.
sex questions or something like that. Or, like, I don't know, try to, like, guess what the other person likes or,
Not too bad.
the Newlywed Show or something. But
I should have done sex questions.
We spent hours and hours over the
Prepping.
weekend just shifting questions back and forth, asking, answering.
Well, now I feel like I should ask a sex question.
I'm totally kidding.
Would you rather be... Jeez, I don't even know how to set this up. Half of it, the first question has to be impotent. Would you rather be impotent or what's another terrible thing that's different than that?
I think the opposite is permanently erect, but yeah.
Oh, yes! Would you rather be impotent or permanently erect?
I think probably impotent, yeah.
And Britta, which would you rather he be?
Oh, God, that's... probably impotent. I don't know, we could maneuver ways
Oh, okay.
to fight with that.
There are alternatives, is what you're saying. You've given me my new question. Thanks for that.
Perfect.
All right, you guys. Thanks.
All right, bye.
See you later.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Char. Bye.
And with me in the studio, as always, is my producer, Charlene Goto.
Good evening.
They weren't as young as I originally thought. They're just both so damned attractive. I think I dropped some years off.
I really, really enjoyed them.
Yeah, they're so genuinely easy and in love with each other.
It was just very honest and very open.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I took away from it was Blake's he's a different breed of a dude, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. The fact that he kept talking about how he was okay with the fact that like he did all the stuff when he was younger, or all the growing he did with the partner.
Yeah.
Most people, especially dudes, aren't into that with like going, okay, I did this with somebody else by my side this whole time. They usually want to do it by themselves, especially like in the they experience their 20s alone. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the same time, like you said, he's very sweet on her, even off the air.
Yeah, he really is.
It's
From
like
the moment they walk in the studio, you just know. The takeaway I kept getting from it, two things. One was that level of trust they've got.
Oh, for sure.
And somehow those two have developed this extraordinary deep reservoir of trust. And those two, they would work through any kind of extraordinary challenge.
Right.
Now, maybe after 10 or 15 challenges, the reservoir is empty and then it's harder. But those two could get through some seriously tough times together. And it's because they trust each other so much.
Right.
Now, I don't know where that trust comes from. Does the trust come from love? Or does it come from long experience with one another? Or like Britta said, she's just never really been betrayed, so she doesn't have any other...
Faith.
Yeah, she's just got faith.
I like they had religion in their life when they first got married.
Yeah.
And then they had to do like that counseling and all that, that go through that whole ordeal, when you get married, like in the church and stuff. And the same team thing.
Yeah.
And it's, that they kept it. They said that, the whole religious thing is kind of, come and gone or whatever. That's like the universal thing that they kept from that. And that's kind of cool too.
Yeah. And then the other thing for me was how concerned each of them is about the other's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And these two both are just really focused on how the other one is feeling. And remember when they started talking about the recent fight that they had, and you could see that they were both still defensive about it, which is normal, right? We've all got the thing we're still defensive about. But the defensiveness wasn't, you wronged me. The defensiveness was around, no, you didn't understand how much I loved you.
Right.
That's what was extraordinary about it. Even the defensiveness was wrapped up in concern about the other person's experience.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
Blake and Britta were great.
Oh, before we wrap, I should talk about Blake's business. So the side business that he's running now is called Sky to Table. He can be found at www.sky2table.com. And that's sky like sky above and TO table.com. And what he does is he takes people who want to go hunting, inexperienced people who've never done it before. He can take them out and show them the ropes, and I think he can provide all the equipment, and he can set up the custom type of game that you want to go after, and it's all for a very affordable price. So if you're interested in doing that sort of thing, which I am, I suggest you go give it a shot.
Sounds kind of fun.
I think it sounds great. Yeah. Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference. If you have any questions or comments, or if you would like to be on the show, please reach out to us via one of our social platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is Facebook/TogetherShow. Twitter and Instagram are both Together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Our art director, and my one and only, is Aubrey Pick. She's the whole reason, folks. The song Sfioro by Roberto Billi was provided under a Creative Commons Attribution license from freemusicarchive.org. Special thanks once again to our guests, Britta and Blake. You guys gotta let me into that gear room. I can't wait, you guys. Be sure to tune in for tomorrow's episode, in which you will hear...
I don't need a man.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have sex when I wanted to have sex. I got all the emotional satisfaction from myself and from my friend. I really didn't find the benefit in being with somebody in a partnership.
That's all for today. See you next time.
Ma credo, o quantomeno spero, che in ogni caso qualche